Hey, what's up everybody? It's George here and we're back with another video. Now today's video is video number 7 in the Goblin 500 electronic setup series. In video number 6 we reached a benchmark, we completed all of the setup settings, and now we're ready to move on to the next section, which is the potentiometers. Before we do, let's take a quick look at my setup. I have the manual open to the right page. I have a pen in case I need to take any notes. I have my Spectrum DX8, and finally I have the Goblin 500, and that's pretty much all we're going to need. So let's go ahead and put the camera on the tripod and get on with the potentiometers. Okay, as you can see, the potentiometers are located directly to the right of the parameter indicators. Now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to leave all of mine set at the default settings and go back and make any changes after a few flights if necessary. What I'll be doing in this video is discussing each one of these using information that I got from a combination of the manual, subscribers of mine, channels that I subscribe to, information in the user group, and I'm going to kind of mash it up together and explain it in layman's terms what each one of these does. So that being said, let's go ahead and get on with the potentiometers. Okay, the first potentiometer, pot number 1, is the swash plate cyclic gain. This setting adjusts how aggressively the helicopter is going to stop after cyclic movement. The default setting is horizontal or 50% cyclic gain, and that's where I'm going to be leaving it for my first few flights. I'll make adjustments afterwards if necessary. To increase the swash plate cyclic gain, you turn the potentiometer clockwise, and to decrease it, you turn the potentiometer counterclockwise. If you set the cyclic gain too high, it's going to result in a soft feel in flight, and the heli is going to tend to oscillate on the elevator axis. Setting it too low is going to result in an even softer feel in flight, and the helicopter is going to feel slower and less direct. For 450 size helicopters, 50% is really the optimal setting, but for larger helicopters you may want to increase this a little bit. For right now I'm going to leave it where it is and make any changes if I need to. The next potentiometer, pot number 2, is the direct cyclic feed forward. Now this setting adjusts the percentage of stick input going directly to the servos, and really what it does is it changes the direct feel of the helicopter. The default setting on this is also horizontal and 50%, and that's where I'm going to be leaving it. To increase this setting, you turn it clockwise, and to decrease, you turn the potentiometer counterclockwise. If you set the direct cyclic feed too high, it's going to result in over control in your cyclic input, and it's going to cause like pitchbacks or bobbles and imprecise forward flight. That's a problem. If you set the cyclic feed too low, it's going to result in a softer and slower feel, and you're going to find that the helicopter is less direct feeling. The optimal setting for this potentiometer is really going to depend on a number of factors, including your blades, your servos, your head speed, and the size and weight of the helicopter you're flying. So you're going to need to make adjustments to this to your own individual needs. Once again, for now, I'm going to leave this in its default horizontal 50% position. The last potentiometer, pot number 3, is the tail dynamic. This setting adjusts the tail stopping behavior in response to rudder stick adjustments. The default setting once again is horizontal or 50% gain. To increase the tail dynamic, you turn the potentiometer clockwise, and to decrease the tail dynamic, you turn the potentiometer counterclockwise. You should make sure that you have the maximum tail gain set up properly in your radio before changing the tail dynamic potentiometer. Setting the tail dynamic too high is going to result in tail bounce back shortly after a hard stop, and it's going to feel soft when you're making fast tail direction changes. Setting the tail dynamic too low is going to result in a softer stopping tail, and it's going to feel less precise and somewhat sluggish. When it's set properly, the tail should stop perfectly without making any flapping noise. Once again, for right now, I'm going to leave this in its center position. That pretty much covers all 3 potentiometers, and now we're ready to move on to the last section, which is the parameters section. Normally you don't adjust the parameters unless you're out at the field, but we're going to go through each one of the parameters, make sure that the default setting is what I want it for, and discuss what each one of them do. If you recall, to enter the setup menu, we pressed and held the menu button until LED A flashed, went solid, and then we released it. To enter the parameters menu, we're going to press the menu button until LED flashes, and we're going to release it immediately. Let's enter the parameters menu. We're now in the parameters menu. You can tell it's the parameters menu because the LED is flashing. LED A is the LED that's flashing, and that's the parameter we're on. But before we go on, I just want to reiterate, I'm not going to be making any changes to any of the defaults. I've already went through the manual, and these are all going to work fine for me. Typically, you'll make changes to these in the field, and I may be making changes in the field, but to start out, I'm going to leave everything at its default setting. That being said, let's go ahead and move on with parameter A. Parameter A is the swash plate cyclic center adjust. You would make changes to this parameter if you were in the field and you did a pitch pump or a fast climb out and you noticed that your helicopter veered to one side or the other. You would also make a change to this parameter if you notice that your helicopter is wobbling when you're doing pirouettes. This actually adjusts the aileron and the elevator without respect to the individual servos themselves. To adjust this, you simply move the aileron or elevator stick to the setting that you want, the opposite direction it's climbing out to, and then to save the parameter, you press the menu button once to continue on. Okay, this looks like a good place to break. We've once again made a lot of progress. We've made it going through all of the potentiometers and started working on the parameters menu. Look for video number 8 in the Goblin 500 electronic series where we continue on setting the parameters of the AR7200BX. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy flying, friends!